The Defense Headquarters has described viral videos showing the attacks and destruction of two Nigerian military fighting hardware, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, that's the MRAP, in Zamfara State as terrorist propaganda. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says the MRAP of troops of Operation Hadarin Daji, while attempting to outflank the terrorist, was bogged down owing to the swampy terrain. According to Buba, while troops tried to extricate the vehicle, the terrorists regrouped, knowing the challenge troops had encountered. He said as a result, the troops dismounted the vehicles and demobilized. In the meantime, the DHQ says reports that 150 persons were kidnapped in Gobir, Sokoto State as false and deliberately planted by the terrorists to undermine troops' winning efforts. It says the trending video depicting the killing of several civilians in a mass grave never took place in Nigeria, but in a nearby African country.
Well, that statement from the Defense Headquarters comes on the heels of worsening insecurity in the country, fueled by resurgent terrorist groups and armed bandits and kidnappers. Well, joining us now is retired Major General Rogers Ibe Nicolas. He is a former theater commander of Operation Lafia Dole in the Northeast. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you.
Thank you
on
very
News
much.
Night Tonight. Well, it does seem like the terrorists are playing some kind of mind game or propaganda game against the Nigerian military. Let's talk about the directive to relocate to Sokoto in the northwest, the government asking the military to move there. It's not the first time we're hearing this from government. In 2015, Buhari made a similar directive, to move to Borno State. How much of a game changer would that be in the counterterrorism war?
Well, thank you for this question. And I think it's important that the commanders move to Northwest, just like we did during my own time we were in the Northeast. It's not only that you are influencing the battle, but you're also giving the troops the moral courage that you are behind them, you are with them, and they are seeing you physically with them. That means that most of the logistic support is with you. And then it also means that they are seeing the situation on the ground. They are also seeing that if there are changes, they can influence it. If there are logistic needs, they can influence it. They can redirect the battle situation. So it's good that they decided to move to Northwest. It's a very good measure.
General Ibe, the good thing, I'm excited that you're here because you've been there. It's always good to have someone who's seen it all. Speak to us about propaganda because, General Buba was talking about propaganda. Perhaps Nigerians need to know a thing or two about what these bad guys are up to when they come up with such videos.
Yeah, propaganda is all part of the war gaming. It's a part of principles of war, propaganda, because you need to win the hearts and minds of the people, and you also need to up the minds of your troops. It's all part of it. And also, you can use propaganda to weaken your enemy. So they are all part of propaganda laid down by the adversaries, trying to play down the morale of the troops and then to take advantage of the situation. So propaganda is all about it. We also do our own propagandas too. There are ways you can do your own local propagandas in your battle area. When I was theater commander, we did a lot of propaganda using the media, using the locals, to coerce them to make sure they support us what we're doing. So it is good. But you find out that the insurgents are always carrying out, once there's a room, once they see at a window, they're keen to it and to dampen the morale of troops and then to show people that they are relevant. So it's all about propaganda. It's all about concept of war.
So how best can the military take advantage of this relocation to actually push back on insurgency in the Northwest so it doesn't even move elsewhere?
Well, like I said earlier on, the commanders are physically on the ground. The Chief of Army Staff, the service chiefs, the CDS, they're all on the ground. So they are seeing for themselves the situation. If they are talking about equipment, platforms to be moved from the Northwest, they know that they need to move more platforms. If they're talking about logistics, they need to move. If you need more boots on the ground, you also see that they need more boots on the ground. They also provide such assistance to the troops and also redirect the battles since they are already on the ground, if they need more additional firepower from the air, they also ask for that. So it's important that proper coordination is done with the service chiefs in the Northwest. It's a very good move.
You know, some experts will say the rainy season is also a problem when in the fight against these insurgents. Without going into some security issues here, are we prepared? Are we able to navigate that terrain now that the rains are upon us?
Well, you know, the weather, the terrain, the climate change, and everything affects operational situation. There are some of these things that you cannot predict, you cannot manage them. You can't manage your rainfall or determine how the rain is going to fall, or that kind of a thing. Or even when the rain falls, the flood, the movement of the flood, you can't even control it. So at times, these things affect our operations, particularly maybe with the air support. You find out that most often than not, you find out that when you plan operations and you need air support and then the weather is bad, then that means your operation will not have any air support, so you're going to have challenges. So these are part of it. So it's not something that you can predict, but you can also make effort to say, okay, if I'm going for such operations, I'm likely to have these challenges, so what do I do to counter such challenges? You also make effort to prepare for them. But by and large, it's not easy for you to determine whether and what is going to really happen on the ground because you don't have control over such things.
In Sokoto and Zamfara, I mean, there have been reports of communities actually, taking their own, going to some kind of self-help, going into the forest to go after these bandits. Do you think it's a move in the right direction? Does it have implications for the overall counterterrorism war?
You see, right from the outset, we didn't get these things right. It has always been the military and the insurgents. This is a national issue that should be tackled at the national level. It shouldn't be left for the military alone. So the communities rising up now to join in the fight against terrorism is the way to go. The community, in fact, it's even late. We've been advocating for communities to come up, rise, support the military in terms of intelligence, in terms of information, even physically taking part. Take control of your place. Mind your areas very well. You know the terrain very well, better than the military personnel there. So it's good that the locals are coming up to take over, to take responsibilities of their area. It's very important. That shows that if we, all over the country, people can come up and say, communities can come up and say, okay, fine, let us support the security agencies. Then we'll go a long way to find a way, find solution to these problems. It's not what it's not something that Nigerians cannot surmount.
You know, before you went to the theater there, specifically Operation Lafia Dole, you were actually interacting with the civilian population and the military, community. Help us. How is it that these people who are in the thick of things, I'm talking about communities as Ngozi highlighted, maybe in Sokoto and other places, how is the military able to win them on its side to ensure that they all galvanize, rally behind the military?
Okay, I will give an example for when I was a theater commander. What I did was to have a lot of town hall meetings with the community leaders, with the youth leaders, with the religious faith leaders across board. And then you sell to them the idea that, look, this country belongs to all of us, this community belongs to all of us. You cannot allow your community to be destroyed by insurgents. So that was the origin of civilian Joint Task Force, JTF. Now we got that going. So if that happened in the Northwest, there's nothing wrong with the people in the Northwest coming up to set up their own civilian Joint Task Force to also help the military, because those guys know the terrain very well. They have the intelligence and information which they can pass to the military to be able to execute operations. So I think it's important that communities wake up and then begin to support the security agencies, because we cannot do it all. It's not possible.
You mentioned earlier about gaining the need to gain the support or confidence of soldiers and the communities. From your standpoint now, do you think the soldiers, the boots on ground, have the kind of motivation that they should be getting? Where do you think the weaknesses are, and how can these gaps be strengthened?
Well, one of the challenges that I see is a large terrain. The large space of land that we have to cover. We might not have enough boots on the ground to cover the whole space of land. So there's need for technology to come to play in this aspect. Looking at what's happening in the Northwest, you find that Northwest is close to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, and recently Benin Republic too. And you can see that all these areas are tied down with insurgencies. So it's easy true for them to stroll into northwest part of Nigeria and to carry out their activities. So it's important that the morale of troops and the community is put together, galvanized together to make sure that they work as a team to be able to repel all these people coming in. And then the border management control, the immigration people, the custom and others. I don't know how prepared they are to support the military, because you find a situation where the military is doing custom job, is doing immigration job, is doing civil defense job, doing police work. So it is too much for the military. So there's need for everybody to come on board and do their own bit.
All right. It's overwhelming. We understand that, and that is again why we're thanking you for finding time to come. And I'm thinking that we should do this from time to time, speak to the people and speak and see how much of help we can go the Sokoto way. General Nicolas Ibe, many thanks. He says he's retired, but he doesn't look like he's retired.